Hello, everybody. Welcome to the sixth in our thought leadership webinars. What is your most valuable content to stay behind closed door? And interesting, with a planned twist, which I'm really excited about hearing about today. As with previous webinars, I am Sajal S, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. I'm joined by two of our esteemed colleagues from Chief Outsiders. I'll let them explain and introduce themselves in a second. Tara, who's our Chief Marketing Officer on the call, and David, who's our Chief Sales Officer on the call. And today we're going to explore a counterintuitive, that's what I meant with a planned twist, approach to thought leadership that drives both immediate business impact, which I know is important to our SMB customers on this call, and market authority. So with that in mind, Tara, maybe you can just take a second to introduce yourself, and then we'll have Dave introduce himself right afterward.
I consider myself a connector. I believe more people want to build a brighter future together than stay divided. I help connect the dots. My intent is to inspire and drive real growth and success across the organizations and communities I serve. This has guided me from my days as a chemical engineer to now with Chief Outsiders, where I specialize in AI and digital, helping leaders of mid-market companies grow. My industry expertise is consumer goods, manufacturing, beauty, and professional services.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is 𝙤𝙤𝙪𝙧, and I'm a Chief Sales Officer with Chief Outsiders. And my career has pretty much been built on working with mid-market and large global organizations and fixing revenue issues, or really creating high-performance sales cultures that people strive to get. So I've spent a lot of time working in high-tech, industrial, professional services, working with executive leaders, trying to, again, help them drive revenue quicker, and again, build high-performance cultural sales teams that become much more efficient and effective.
Great. I love that from both you guys. Thank you both. All right, let's dive right in. All right, Tara, let me ask you our first question. And I kind of put this under the genre of conventional wisdom, which most of us on this call are very versed with. But what do you think most companies believe about sharing their expertise and requiring contact information, and specifically talking about gated information, obviously, before giving access to content? What's the typical approach, and why do so many of the organizations we work with follow this approach?
Great question, Saj. Most companies believe they should carefully guard their best insights. Here on this slide, think about it like a restaurant that keeps its special sauce recipe secret. Companies often think that if they share too much knowledge freely, they'll lose their competitive edge. Many believe that valuable content should be kept behind forms that collect visitor information to maximize its perceived value. There's a fear that by openly sharing expertise, you're essentially training future competitors or giving away your intellectual property for free. This leads to strategies where most valuable content requires visitors to fill out forms before they can access it.
Great. Okay. All right, let's talk to you, Dave, about that from a sales perspective. How does this typical approach play out? Like, can you give us your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Tara just mentioned, that a lot of folks are worried about competitors stealing their ideas and repackaging them as their own. It's a realistic threat, but a lot of people worry about that. But the other point also is that a lot of sales leaders push hard for aggressive form requirements because they're worried about capturing client data versus building long-term relationships, which is a little bit of the wrong mindset as we talk about gated content. And it's more important. And to top that off, I think about when you think about the sales funnel today compared to in the past, marketing owns much more of the sales funnel today than ever before. Traditionally, it's been sales, handle most of the sales funnel. Now it's flipped. 80% of your clients and prospects are checking out your websites and doing their homework before ever engaging with you or one of your sales reps. So what we're talking about today is mission critical about content, because again, they're looking at your website, the content that you have out there to gather information before again they get started on engaging you folks.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, like you said, the funnel has changed pretty dramatically, and we've talked about that in some of our previous webinars as well. So let's get back to the reality of this, right? So So Tara, maybe again, I'll go back to you. What's wrong with this conventional approach, given the context that both you and Dave provided? Can you explain maybe why protecting all your best insights or content now might actually be a strategy that backfires on you? Like, what do you think on this?
The strategy of keeping everything behind forms is actually the fastest path to becoming irrelevant in today's market. The research is clear. According to Edelman, 81% of business decision makers say content that features multiple experts and multiple perspectives is significantly more valuable than content from just one source. LinkedIn found that content featuring diverse viewpoints receives 52% more engagement than single author perspectives. For example, a mid-sized software company we work with was struggling to gain traction until they started featuring customer stories alongside their own expertise. For mid-market companies, those who bring together different viewpoints see sales happening 3 times faster than those who keep all their knowledge to themselves.
Dave, just from your idea from a sales context, right? What's your thought and approach about requiring contact information that many of your sales teams that you work with advocate for? What do you think is the best way?
Well, I think, first of all, the approach of putting everything valuable behind forms is a little bit misguided. Our research with mid-market companies, we see a direct connection between where you place your forms and the return on that content investment. So, when we think about a lot of our clients, especially in the manufacturing space, that have used, you require contact information for everything. And by the way, I personally really frustrated with that when I'm doing research on customers or products. If I fill out a form just to get some basic data. So if the folks on this call have been in that same situation, I feel you, because I get frustrated as well. But I find that when our clients switch to more of a value-based approach, where they only ask for information when the content's really worth it to the visitor, you'll see a major improvement, almost to like an 80% improvement in your conversion rates. So the most successful approach is not about forms everywhere or no forms. It's about really having smart forms that create value for the client, or the prospects.
Wow, that's a great insight today. Smart forms. I know I'm going to remember that after this webinar. I'm sure a lot of our audience will as well. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into the second aspect of that. Then let's keep with you for a second, Dave. So you said none at all, or all at all, right? So if it's the extremes, if keeping all your knowledge locked away and behind a gate isn't the answer, well, what does this smart approach mean, and what's the better approach? Can you maybe go into that a little bit more in detail?
Well, you want to become a curator of data. Excuse me. But you can't be an isolated expert, I guess, is the point we're trying to make. So think about it. You want to be a skilled curator of information. So think about it like a conductor of a great orchestra, right? You get there early, everybody working on their own instruments. But when the conductor comes to front center stage and pulls it all together, that's where the magic happens. So it's much better having more people and their viewpoints help you amplify that information, especially complementary ones. I just think it creates great value. So as an example, I had a client that started using monthly roundtables with customers and partners, and they captured that content and then shared that data out on their website, which I think is fantastic, because you start to build a lot of credibility and value when you share that level of content that's not siloed, but much more of an industry type of knowledge.
Love that. Tara, do you have a thought about this smart approach, as Dave was saying? Do you want to add anything to what Dave was saying?
3 things happen within the first 90 days. First, your sales conversations immediately shift from, let me tell you about our product, to strategic partnership discussions. Our research shows that teams using content that brings together multiple perspectives see a 42% increase in meetings with senior executives within 60 days. Second, your online presence grows significantly through what we call network amplification. When you feature partners and customers in your content, they share it with their networks too. A mid-sized healthcare technology company we work with saw their content reach nearly 4 times more people without spending additional marketing dollars. And then third, your competitive position shifts from one of many providers to the essential connector in your space. This translates to immediate pricing power, with our clients seeing 12 to 18% fewer discount requests within the first quarter.
There is that immediate impact that we started this meeting with. That's awesome. Thank you, Tara. That's really great. All right, I'm going to switch now to just building from what both of you said to what the strategy behind content gating, right? Or as smart or strategic content gating. So let's start with you, Dave. So we just spoke to Tara. Let's dig a little bit deeper into when we require contact information. So go back to your SMART idea, which I loved. What does a SMART approach look like in today's business environment? Maybe you can give us some thoughts, and then maybe share that with the rest of the audience on this call.
Yeah, if you go to the next slide, it's really all about the 80-20 rule. An organization that have the highest return on their content follow a very specific pattern. Yeah, they share roughly 80% of their insight completely free, without any kind of gating there at all, to build that massive reach. And more importantly, you've got to establish some trust with the prospects, right? But that remaining 20% doesn't always require contact information arbitrarily. You want to have something where you want to grab that data when it's very specific, your content's got high value, and it's a resource that really will generally warrant an exchange of information that clients and prospects would feel comfortable with going forward.
I love this slide. I think this slide is so impactful. And I'm just thinking about a little bit, if I think about what I'm seeing on the slide, like the 20% aspect is really what's important to the customer. That's incremental value to them. And the 80% is more educational and what's kind of important to everybody. Am I understanding that well, Dave?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, it's just got to be something somebody could take back and say, okay, that was valuable, giving my personal data out, and I can use this going forward, versus just kind of like I just wasted 15 minutes looking at something that made no sense and now to give my information away. That's where, again, I think people get frustrated and tend to look for other sources when they got a continual company and websites that do that to them all the time.
Do you have an example of maybe someone you worked with before, or that you know of that you had the situation arise with, and what you did? Or
Well,
maybe Tara does?
yep, Tara, I'll let you jump on that one because I was wheeling my mind if you go, and if not, I can jump into one.
From your perspective, what kind of content actually justifies asking for contact information? Do you have some thoughts on that?
We've identified 3 types of resources that consistently justify asking for contact information and create immediate business impact. First, interactive assessment tools. For example, a mid-size IT services company that we work with created a technology readiness assessment that helps prospects understand their gaps compared to industry benchmarks. Second, decision-making frameworks. A manufacturing client created customizable planning templates that help prospects evaluate different approaches to solving their problems. And then third, implementation tools that help people get started quickly. A software client created process templates and implementation checklists that save their prospects weeks of work. When implemented with the right tracking, this approach not only generates qualified leads, but provides a continuous stream of insights about what your market truly values.
Awesome. I love continuous streams of insights. That's wonderful. I know my customers, I'm sure your customers do as well. All right, so let's get into the implementation of this then, right? So since all of this is so compelling, and I know this is something that everybody in the audience is thinking about, how do we translate theory to practice? Like, how can companies, particularly SMBs, put this into practice? All the thoughts you guys have provided. Can you perhaps provide a framework for them to think about, Tara?
We've developed what we call the Digital Thought Leadership Transformation Framework. Might sound like a mouthful, but it's actually really simple with 5 key components. First, AI-powered challenge identification. You're using simple tools to identify the pressing challenges your customers face. For example, a mid-sized financial services firm analyzed common questions from customer service calls to identify content topics. Second, digital knowledge network development. using AI to identify potential partners with complementary expertise. For example, a manufacturing client partnered with their suppliers and customers to create richer content. Third, intelligent content creation, bringing together multiple expert perspectives into clear, helpful resources. A healthcare company combined insights from doctors, patients, and administrators to create more valuable guidance. Fourth, strategic digital gating. You're following the 80-20 rule that Dave talked about a little bit ago across your website and only ask for information where the value justifies it. And then fifth, smart distribution. Creating an automated way to share your content through email, social media, and other channels to guide users toward deeper engagement.
Love it. I love this framework. Thank you so much. I know everyone in our audience is going to really benefit from this framework. All right, Dave, you're our sales lead here. So speed, everybody wants speed, right? How can folks on this call, the companies that we represent, get started quickly and then start seeing some immediate results? Because immediate results are these days extremely important.
Absolutely. If we go to the next slide, we'll kind of walk through that. And Sajal, I just can't hammer home the point enough that usually when I get involved in an engagement, I hear this from a lot of CEOs. Hey, I love that you're coming in here to get under the hood a little bit, but I don't want to wait 90 days to get a win, right? So getting quick wins right out of the block is just super critical. So we've got to create a 30-day digital quick win plan that should accommodate most folks on this call today to give you those quick, immediate business impact that you're looking for, but also help you become a foundation for becoming that trusted authority in your space. So let me just walk you through the plan right now. So pretty straightforward. Week one, hey, just set with simple tracking of your existing content, right? And the great thing is if you have some AI tools, and if you don't, use some of those tools to really kind of leverage and review what's working really well for you on the website. And at the same time, in that first week, try to identify a couple of potential partners that help you kind of create some valuable perspectives that you could use downstream here a little bit. So you want to get that going as well. Now, as you move into week two, coming off of Tara, you want to start shifting that 80-20 model, right? And start to redesign forms that have a very clear value proposition. Easy example would be, hey, instead of changing your headline from, hey, download now, something as simple as get your customized implementation guide. Just little things like that can make a big difference. Then as you work into week three, you want to take those identified partners, start to create that one high value resource that you can use in your content, and then also start supporting freely available content on the site as well. But you really want to get that one high value content really created that you can use and start to gate when you need it. And then closing out with week four, this is really critical. You want to connect the engagement data to CRM that creates some alarms for your sales team to know, hey, I had a prospect that went deep with some information on our website, and then help them with some, develop conversation guides so that when they engage with that client, they can have a really good conversation and dialogue with the customer. And what you'll see out of this effort, these 4 weeks, is that typically you get a 25% bump in your content management. And more importantly, you're going to get a 50% bump in conversion rates on that gated content within your first 30 days. So that's that quick payback that a lot of our executives are looking for when they have to invest time and effort.
Wow, compelling. 40% increase in engagement and 50% increase in conversion in a month. I love that. I know just about everybody on this call desires that as well. So thank you, Dave. That's really wonderful. I'm going to go back to a question I asked earlier. That it's a good time to ask it now, which is about the real world examples or a real case study. Tara, do you maybe have an example of this or a case study you can share with the audience today?
Yeah, because it's all well and good for us to talk conceptually about all of this. And with us having over 5,000 case studies to be able to pull from, one example, bringing to life what Dave was describing here, is that we worked with a mid-market manufacturing technology company. They were facing significant competitive pressures from both larger enterprises and nimble startups. Their existing thought leadership was technically sound, but failed to generate meaningful business results. We were just talking about it. It's about the impact. It's about delivering the results. So we implemented our digital approach here, what Dave was walking you through. We analyzed the customer service calls and sales conversations to identify the 5 key customer challenges. We identified and approached 7 complementary partners, including suppliers and non-competing service providers. We created a simple system for gathering insights from those partners. We analyzed user behavior to identify when visitors were most ready to provide contact info. And we made 80% of their existing content freely available.
Wow.
Sales.
Okay. 80%. That goes back to the 80-20 rule that both of you have been speaking about.
And then Dave,
all right.
you want to, yep.
Yeah, Dave, I would love to see what were the results of that. Maybe this is a great example of what you were talking about theoretically. Let's see what happened in real life.
Absolutely. You pop up a slide. There we go. The results are dramatic. Especially look at the right side of that slide. 67% more qualified leads. That's off the charts, right? And the biggest beef of sales reps and sales leaders is that, hey, I got a lot of leads that come into my hands that are worthless, right? If somebody just maybe clicked on a link, that data gets captured, they get flipped to a rep as a lead. It's very frustrating from the frontline sales reps not to have hot leads or very warm leads versus I got a name and a contact and flip that over. So this just hammers from the point of the transformation that can happen following that process. And more importantly, the client Tar referred to became a recognized go-to authority in their space. You can't buy that, right? And they received regular invitations to attend industry events as featured speakers. See, that's where that credibility starts, right? Now you start to change your value prop with your prospects. And what that evolved into, they were able to start charging a premium price because of the perception of their company and their products that was tied to everything they did on our website with the gated content. But for the folks on the call today, the most relevant thing that I'm looking at on this slide, that the transformational approach is just not their content strategy, but the entire go-to-market strategy changes. And you look at 3.4x return on the investment through the first quarter, that's incredible by following something as simple as the process we just walked through.
Okay. I'm a believer now. 80-20 rule run. It passes the smell test with me. So thank you both. I love that. I'm sure everybody on this call is also going, holy cow, this is great. Not only great information, but the slide is so compelling. Thank you. All right. I think we're about the 5-minute mark for our webinar. So I'm going to go into kind of the final comments from both of you. So as we wrap up, Dave, or maybe I'll start with you, Tara. What final thoughts would you like to leave our audience with? Like, what do you think that they should remember from this meeting, from this webinar, that they should keep in their long-term kind of knowledge base?
The irony is clear. Companies that try to dominate by keeping everything to themselves end up limiting their influence. Meanwhile, those who embrace their role as curators, who bring together diverse perspectives and add value by making sense of it all, they're the ones that become the essential voices in their industries. Ask yourself, are you still trying to be the expert on everything? Or are you ready to become the trusted guide who helps your customers make sense of all the available information?
I love that. Again, that's another thing I'm going to put in my own head, being the trusted guide. I love that. Dave, how about you? Can you add your thoughts about what Tara said? Your perspective?
Yeah, just a final thought. As I stated earlier, prospects are becoming much more sophisticated and educated prior to engaging with you and your reps. And the marketing teams have much more impact on today's sales funnel than ever before. So this approach is really going to help your sales teams fundamentally shift how they're engaging with their prospects. So instead of running in trying to pitch products or services, your company's already set the tone for becoming much more of a trusted advisor who connects clients with exactly the expertise they're looking for. And this was really creates long-lasting relationships. It gives you a competitive advantage.
Thank you. I love that. This is so awesome. I appreciate both of you providing your perspectives to our audience today. Thank you. And then thank you to the audience for joining us today. This has been a great session. We hope you guys have gained some valuable insights. The thread I keep hearing in every one of our webinars this is our 6th one again, as I mentioned in the beginning. The funnel has changed pretty dramatically. A lot of the work that goes into the buying process now is done by the customer, and they self-educate. So becoming that trusted advisor or a trusted guide, as Tyra said, is probably the most critical thing that we can do as folks trying to service these new customers. And this means, particularly when it comes to content, you transform your approach to sharing expertise versus trying to like save everything or like put everything behind a wall. And not only will that drive immediate business impact, as we saw earlier, but it will give you lasting market authority and make become kind of a leader in this industry. So thank you again, both of you. Dave and Tara, we very much appreciated your presentation today. Thank you again.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, Saj. Thanks, Dave.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.